Hello, and many thanks for joining us from around the world. It is People, Politics, and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. Last week, Monday, Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu formally inaugurated the Executive Council of the Federation, following the assignment of portfolios and the swearing-in of the ministers. After the maiden meeting of the council, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Wale Edun, unveiled an 8-point agenda, which he said is to turn around the economy and make life comfortable for all Nigerians. He called it the roadmap for the economy. The agenda is coming almost 3 months after the president took power and unfolded a number of policies which have significantly impacted the lives and livelihoods of almost every Nigerian, particularly the poor and excluded. The agenda comprises 8 priority areas. They include food security, ending poverty, economic growth and job creation, access to capital, level playing field for business, especially for companies, inclusivity, security, rule of law, and fighting corruption. The minister said the Executive Council of the Federation identified targets which must be delivered in the next 3 years. Let's listen to him.
Basically, food security, ending poverty, economic growth and job creation, access to capital, particularly consumer credit, inclusivity in all its dimensions, particularly as regards youth and women, improving security, improving the playing field on which people and particularly companies operate, rule of law, and of course, fighting corruption. Clearly, the federal government is not in a position to borrow at this time. Rather, the emphasis has to be on creating a stable macroeconomic environment, stable inflation, stable exchange rate, and an environment within which people can come and invest.
Mr. Edun said the president charged ministers to be innovative, bold, and courageous in rolling out policies and programs to turn around the economy within weeks. But given the grim picture of the economy that the minister painted at the post-FEC meeting, with inflation at 24%, a steadily falling per capita, and high unemployment levels, how realistic is it to expect a quick turnaround and set the economy on the path of progress? Now, expectedly, the agenda has elicited mixed reactions from economists, industrialists, and some non-governmental bodies who say its success will boil down to implementation with clear timelines and collaborations with the private sector and civil society organizations. Our focus on the program today is to do a deep dive into each of the agenda items against the backdrop of the fact that this is only the latest in a series of service delivery plans by successive governments to reset the Nigerian economy. How is this agenda likely to be different? Why should Nigerians trust government with these promises and hope that they are not the usual political rhetorics? Well, join us in our discussion as we'll be bringing on our guest analysts right after now. Stay with us.
Issues are critical, germane to Nigeria's democratic process.
Politicians
can only be seen maybe on television by judges. They should not intermingle, because once you intermingle, then you destroy the system.
When the personalities are big, important to national discourse.
When you reach certain stage of power and you demonstrate arrogance to the extreme, there's no other thing that will happen to you other than to fall.
When the developments are seemingly complex, confounding like a 1,000-piece jigsaw, that's when we require bold, sound, and analytical minds to help put the pieces together. Jigsaw with Benga Arileba, now showing Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. on AIT. Jigsaw, demystifying the issues.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's get to meet our guest analysts. Two of them are already online via Zoom joining us. And right here in the studio, we have Nkechi Ilochikani, who is the head of programs and acting director of Resource Mobilization and Innovation Action Aid Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
All right, joining us online right now is Muda Yusuf. Muda Yusuf is the former president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries, LCCI. Thank you very much, Mr. Muda Yusuf, for joining us.
Thank you. Former Director General, not President.
Former Director General, I beg your pardon. Thank you so much. And also joining us is Mr. Segun Ajayi-Kadir, who is the Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN. Thank you so much, Mr. Kadir, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. All right, let's begin with you, Mr. Kadiri. Let's have your first take on that 8-point agenda. Does it, for you as a manufacturer, look bright enough as to help in lifting the Nigerian economy from where it is at the moment?
Well, I think like most statements that have come from Mr. President, it has always been talk about renewed hope. That is coming from the background that we have witnessed unprecedented downturn in terms of our economy in the recent past. And part of his campaign agenda was to bring what he termed as renewed hope, which is to rebuild the lost confidence in the economy, and then to make people believe that it is possible to rejuvenate the economy and to make it buoyant again. So all he has said in terms of the 8-point agenda has been tailored in that direction. Eliminating poverty, inclusive growth, driving the economy, ensuring that jobs are created, and even giving a rather tasking job of generating 50 million employment over a period of that 3 to 4 years. So I think all that he has said has been things that, if achieved, it should bring succor to the economy. But I think they say the devil is in the details. So, and he has given a few weeks for ministers to roll all of this into policies and programs, which is where the action is. It's not just in the words, but in seeing that there is practical exemplification of all that we have had and seeing how it will be done, given that the first few months have witnessed dramatic turns, good policies, executions have left quite a number of hardship that needs to be redressed. So let's see how the hope is going to be built on the pre-existing conditions and to see how the economy itself will react to it.
Mr. Kadiri, now, from the perspective of a manufacturer, everyone seems to have talked about the fundamentals, the foundations for the success of this 8-point agenda. From the perspective of a manufacturer, or one who operates in the industry, what do you consider to be those fundamentals?
Well, so I think there has been quite a number of issues that have been raised. And like my brother, the former DG of SCCI said, there's really nothing new that we have seen. And what the Mr. President has given are very broad objectives. I always try as much as possible to listen very well to government officials when they speak. Because if you do, somehow you'll be able to get what they are supposed to say that they didn't say, what they say that they don't mean, or what they mean that they did not say. So specifically, I try also as much as possible not to give my own agenda, but to try to trace what government has indicated to be the agenda for manufacturing. So it is in that regard that I want to mirror my contribution. I think the Honorable Minister herself, that's the Honorable Minister in charge of Industry, Trade and Investment, has indicated that they are confident that to generate 50 million jobs in 3 years, maybe 3 to 4 years. And there's indication that there has been inquiries, there has been interest shown in some sectors, oil and gas, health, solid minerals, and agriculture. I was very jealous when I didn't hear manufacturing. And I hope it's not an indication that that lip service is being paid to manufacturing, and that we have not realized that except you have investment, be it foreign or local, that is focused on promoting domestic manufacturing, we are not going to get anywhere. Portfolio investors are readily available in all those areas that she said interests have been shown. So I think government in the first instance has to recognize what is relevant to its economy. The economy should not be an all-comers affair. And which leads me to why we must have an industrial policy for Nigeria that will guide every aspect of our engagement. As we speak, we do not have one comprehensive agenda, and there has been several programs that government, we do not have one industrial policy, but there has been several initiatives that government has initiated that have got very close to giving us a direction, which speaks to what I think the direction is. To start with, there are so many challenges that confront the manufacturing sector as we speak. There are factors that limit its competitiveness and its capacity to play the role that it's supposed to play. Our contribution to GDP has remained between 10 to 12 at best times. We have continued to record unprecedented low sales, even before we had the Naira transition that was badly managed, and then we had the floating of the Naira, which has impacted on the importation of our raw materials that are not locally available. And of course, the removal of fuel subsidy, which has increased the cost of logistics and the rest of it. So what we'll be looking at now is first and foremost to stop the bleeding and the downturn that we have in the economy before we can even start to think of the bigger issues of creating a macroeconomic environment that supports manufacturing, removing the infrastructure challenges. But there are present ones, for instance, that we need to tackle. I've said it, I don't know whether it's on this program, that it costs about the same amount to move a 40-foot container from Singapore to Apapa than to move it from Apapa to Agbara, that is just 27 kilometers away. Government has to remove this. And all around us, we have small countries like Benin Republic and so on, that their port system is far more efficient than ours. So I think we need to remove all that. There are also quite a number of policies that are awaiting government approval. You have, for instance, the issue of diapers policy that promises to unleash the opportunities that we have in that sector. But the local producers have continued to grow under subsisting fiscal policy structures that limit that sector. Of course, like my brother from LCCI said, I think there has to be a stakeholders engagement. And happily, a few weeks has been given. There's need for us to sit down and encourage our minister, for instance, to be able to network other ministry departments and agencies of government to bring down the cost of manufacturing. Nigeria has continued to claim that we perform well in terms of ease of doing business, but we have not noticed the impact of escalating costs of doing business, which has tended to limit the performance that that sector has. Again, we can talk about the possibility of having an engagement with the minister that addresses the supply side constraint of manufacturing. There's abundance of local sources from which we can derive our raw materials. But for similar challenges, including insecurity that one of the persons on this program has indicated, where our raw materials, for instance, cannot even get to us from the sources where they are being produced. So there's need for us to address that. In the last survey we did, 60% of our members in the northeast of the country have either closure of their companies are moribund. There's need for you to bring back those people into production, and it means improving the insecurity, elevating the insecurity situation that we have there, and ensuring that it is maintained, not just building ID camps that people will go to stay. They need to return to their lives, and in order to guarantee that they do not even themselves become insurgents, so you have to give them some livelihood. So insecurity in those areas must be tackled as a matter of urgency. And of course, we have the issue of improving power supply, because the demand on petrol is not so much for cars. A lot of manufacturers, especially those in the small and medium scale industries, even use it to power their operations. I won't tell you the price of diesel. VAT, diesel has no, there shouldn't be any VAT on diesel, for instance, if you want to bring down the cost. And the so-called palliatives that people are banding about now, it's important that you put it into improving productivity, so that you don't just share money that won't have any impact on the people that are receiving it, because inflation is already high in the first system. So there are quite a number of issues that we can speak to as the low-hanging fruit. I'm afraid to set long, far-sighted ones, because like my brother LCCI DG said, the coast is not yet clear. We've not had a granular revelation of what those objectives will boil down to. And I think we would want government to engage us on those.
All right, let's get them to do this, consult with their various sectors, and come up with details of this agenda. And then, of course, we can continue to engage with them. But I must thank all of you for your time and for your contributions. Dr. Muda Yusuf, former Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries, SCCI, thank you so much for your time. Mr. Paul Alaje, who also joined us from Lagos, is an economist. And Mr. Segun Ajayi-Kadir is the Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN. And right here in the studio, we're joined by Nkechi Ilochi Kani, who is the Head of Programs and Acting Director of Resource Mobilization and Innovation of Action Aid Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so
much. And thank you for your contributions. We do appreciate. And for our viewers out there, we thank you for investing your time with us. Bye for now.